let's go. So, as always, let me know if my audio sucks. Also, 1 second, I need to get water. Ugh. Okay. Hi, everyone. So, unfortunately, I'm feeling like a little bit sick today. I don't know why. I'm just feeling a little bit sick. But anyways, what is this short stream that I'm doing while I'm sick? Oh, detect. There she is! In the flesh. So, I recently, put out a thing at one point where I essentially, missed me. Sure. I essentially put out a thing where, I put out, a poll a while back asking people some of their, what's essentially, an anime take that you defend, really heavily. So, I'm gonna read some of your guys' anime takes. And for the record, I'm mostly gonna read the ones I, have actually seen, a show from. Just because I don't want to have an opinion about something I don't know anything about. So, the third Alexander says, hi, welcome to the stream. But yeah. Oh man, yeah, I got sick. It has been a long week for me, quite frankly. I'm hoping it gets better next week. Alright, so let's see. I'm gonna read this one first that says, enemies to friends is an overdone dynamic that barely has changed since its inclusion into animes. Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, I'm already not in glad to be here, says the third Alexander. I'm already not the biggest, enemies to lovers fan in fiction. It's just not my thing, where it's ugh, he just punched me in the face. I think I'm in love with it. Anything that's enemies to lovers, that's pretty much my least favorite trope of all time. I just think it's kind of dumb. I think it's very few people do it where the characters actually grow. One says, we gotta change your settings to mono later. I know, my love. Okay, please tell me if my mic sounds good. But anyways. Yeah. I just feel enemies to friends is alright, but sometimes it just gets, in the way of the story a little bit too much. Chariot says, thine hast risen. Yes. I love that. Welcome to the stream. Cause, I think, when you have, Bakugo and Deku, for example, in My Hero Academia, I think, they're dynamic in the sense of how they're both inspired by All Might and, very different people. I think that's, kind of cool, but then sometimes they'll just, get into, bickering matches a little bit, or it's mostly Bakugo who just gets into, bickering matches with Deku, and he's you're not worth crap, Deku, and you're just, waiting for them to be, best friends for, the whole show. And I think he's, matured a bit, and yeah, especially in the most recent season. I haven't seen the newest season yet. But enemies to friends, I think sometimes only works a little bit, depending on who writes it. Let's see. This one's from, Pickle the Saurus. This says, isekai is a genre that has a lot of potential it has no intention on living up to. There's quite a lot in the way of character development to be gained just from the idea of taking someone and throwing them into a completely foreign world, let alone what you get by actually using other characters. But no, we just get the generic fantasy harem yawn fest with characters that are more walking stereotypes than people. I hate to agree with that, but it's kind of true a little bit. Like, some isekai, the good isekai, the ones that everyone has seen, stick out because it has, like, things that are, like, good to them. Like, Rising of the Shield Hero, and I know everyone didn't like the turtle arc, I still have to watch it. Rising of the Shield Hero is good because the main character's not, like, super basic, although some people do have complaints about, like, Raphtalia sometimes as a character, and, like, Philo. ReZero is good, it has a really solid story. Okay, I like Sword Art Online, but I think the thing about Sword Art Online is, like, you can definitely not like it, but I feel like if it was a truly, like, horrible story, I feel like no one would watch it and it wouldn't be half as popular as it is. And the reason it's still something that people watch is because, like, the storyline stuff is, like, really interesting. Even though Kirito kind of does, like, every girl likes him, like, a lot of the, characters are really well written in the story. I also think that, well, Kirito just kind of differs a bit, I think, from a lot of the issues with certain, like, isekai protagonists, in my opinion, at least. Because I feel like he's, like, kind of a respectful and caring person. That's just my opinion. But yeah. But yeah, I understand that take totally. I will say, is this my hot take? Sure. Someone says, isekai is a power fantasy that sucks most of the time. Yeah, I will say, like, ReZero is the best isekai ever, for sure. I'm gonna be honest, like, Mushoku Tensei is, like, I wanted to like it, but I just felt like the main character was, like, a bit much for me. I wish he was just a little bit cooler. Okay, let's see. Someone's take is, just because it has CG doesn't mean the animation is bad. I mean, yeah, I feel like that's true. Like, I feel like it's actually not even the inclusion of CG in anime sometimes that people don't like. I think it's when the CG is very clearly, like, low effort and budgetary and off-putting. So, like, cause, you know, one of my favorite shows that Juan, my boyfriend, actually introduced me to was, like, Ultraman, the one on, not the movie on Netflix, the, like, Ultraman, with, like, Shinjiro and, why do I always forget his name? The dude who, like, mentors him, that's voiced by Liam O'Brien. I really like Ultraman, and I think the CG just feels like the fight scenes go hard in that show. Like, it's just so good, and I think it's, like, really, it's kind of detailed a bit, but I think most of the, like, appeal of that show to me is because I think with the fight scenes, it kind of seems like they used some kind of motion capture, maybe? Or maybe they didn't. Maybe it's just, like, really fluid, like, CG fight scenes. But that whole show is CG. I really like that show. Or, like, Ufotable kind of uses CG sometimes for their effects in Demon Slayer. And I think it looks pretty good, but they kind of style the CG and the visual effects where, like, it looks like it matches in Demon Slayer. And so, if you have, someone says, I love the CGI in Attack on Titan. Yeah, that's interesting, because I honestly, okay, in the most recent seasons, I feel like the CG is, like, pretty good, and I understand that Mappa's, like, busy. They actually did have, like, CG, a lot in the first 3 seasons made by Wit Studio, and... Is her mic muted, or am I deaf? You're deaf, says the third Alexander. Anyways, like, I think the CG's pretty good. They actually kind of used it for some of the backgrounds during a lot of the ODM gear scenes, and that's why it's, like, kind of fluid with Wit Studio. I think, in sort of opposition to that, what Mappa did was they made, like, the Titans CG, but all of the backgrounds, for the most part, I'm pretty sure, are usually, like, 2D. Which is interesting. Interesting contrast. Let's see. Let's see. Masahige says, Konosuba, best isekai. Aqua got that dog in her. For real. She's built different. The left one is broken. Explains a lot. This happens every time. Anyways, so let's move on to the next one. Alright, let's see. Someone said, let's see. I feel like bad because I'm name dropping, so maybe I shouldn't name drop because I want everyone to be like, that's the worst take I've ever heard to these people. But someone says, I actually like filler when done in certain ways. I think so too. I think it can be fun. I feel like for the most part for me, I just kind of mostly like storyline stuff. Like even when I play games, I don't feel like I can just like play any game. Like it kind of has to be a storyline game for me. Mooncat says, it does make the stream very funny for me though. Since the background music is good. Oh man. But yeah, like I'm trying to think of like, I don't know if I've watched too many shows with like heavy filler in it. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna skip some of these ads for you guys so you don't have to deal with them. I think that like, well, what's had like filler? I feel like I've only watched like super serious shows with no filler or like goofy shows. So technically like every episode of the Goofy show is like kind of filler, but it depends. I mean maybe in Code Geass I remember there was one episode that was like kind of filler where someone was like pretending to be Lelouch, and that was interesting. But yeah, that's all I can remember right now. Shaw the Prinny donates $2. Play Moonlight Sonata. I don't know if Moonlight Sonata is copyright free. I wish I could play it on like my... Well, I don't have a piano with me. I wish I could play it on piano because I can play piano. I don't think I can play it on violin. Ufotable Animations looks too stiff compared to some other big studios nowadays. Like only the mouth moves when they talk without other parts moving. Well, that's kind of what most anime studios do, I feel like. Like, maybe not Mappa as much. The reason why they do that, I think I watched a video once with someone talking about this, is because whenever they have like big fight scenes in that season, or they have like scenes that are gonna take a lot of time and effort, they kind of just like, that's why sometimes you have characters where they're just like standing still and like talking. It's like just their mouth moving and they're not really moving. Ooh, hiccups. But yeah, so that's fair. That's fair. Alright. This is an interesting one. I actually need to finish the show, I think. Dead Man Wonderland would have been a cult classic, and if I recall correctly, it was because they killed off one of the characters in the anime that was actually supposed to be alive for a lot longer seasons. That and funding too, maybe. From what I saw from Dead Man Wonderland, I thought it was like pretty good so far. And honestly, yeah, I'm surprised it's not more popular. Like, I thought it would at least be like maybe as popular as like Black Lagoon or Cowboy Bebop, but yeah. Azure Angel says, Toei is arguably the most consistent studio of them all. I'd have to watch more by Toei. I've kind of only seen like Dragon Ball Z Kai. But I liked Dragon Ball Z Kai, so... Let's see. Who's texting me? Not much of a hot take, but Vivi Fluorite Eyes song is a masterpiece and I love it. I'm having Juan watch that right now. It's like one of my favorite shows. And the dude, or one of the composers who wrote the soundtrack for that show, also helped to write the soundtrack for Nier Automata. So there's kind of, which is interesting because I feel like there are a lot of similarities between those series. But yeah. It's the police. It's the feds. Let's see. Juan's messaging me. Why? Oh, he's showing me how to fix audio stuff. Don't I? I have a wonderful boyfriend. Let me just say that. My boyfriend and editor. I love him. Okay, so I have to go to audio input. Advanced audio properties. If I can find it. Or just properties. I'm so smart. Tell me what to do, Juan! Tell me where to go! How do I get to advanced audio properties, my love? It's okay, I'll figure it out later. I still love you, though. Let's see. Rem is best girl. It's hard for me to rank who best girl is, because I feel like there's so many good ones. Rem is definitely, like, cool. Is this just a looping audio? You caught me! Yes. It's okay, I'll change up the song. Yeah, I'd say in my list of best girl, honestly, like, okay. I think it's gotta be Asuna a little bit, personally. Because A, Chermi Lee is like a cool voice actress, but also, like, the fact that Asuna stayed with Kirito for 200 years in the underworld, when, like, she didn't really have to, is pretty cool. I think also up there for me, as far as best girl goes, I mean, probably Saber in Fate, because Saber's just cool. Manager for Music Loop. Alright, let's see. But Rem is pretty cool. There needs to be more adult casts and parents. Also, we need more intelligent characters. I'm sick and tired of characters being conveniently dumb to serve the plot. I mean, honestly, I feel like this year, actually, there's been quite a few anime that's come out where the characters are, like, adults, and, like, I feel like, I think that's pretty cool. Like, Kaiju number 8, I was like, oh, that's cool to see a character who's, like, 30 and not, like, 14, because I feel like as I age too, like, sometimes I do look at some of those shows with, like, younger main characters, and I'm like, this doesn't feel real. This doesn't make sense. The music is too loud? Well, apparently, I'm not loud enough, according boring to all of you. No. But, like, yeah. I think that in Solo Leveling too, because, like, the main character in Solo Leveling, he's, like, what, 22, 21, something like that. 23, somewhere around that age range. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Let's see. I need to watch all these animes. The first season of MHA, says someone, is absolutely terrible. To be fair, everything after that is good. I think the first season is just not as climactic as the rest of the seasons. I don't think that's bad, but I see your point a little bit. It's definitely slower paced. Also, I could be wrong, but it might actually have fewer episodes too. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I feel like if a first season is truly bad, it's usually gonna be like a pretty unwatchable show. Like, you can almost tell like right away if like a show is gonna be good or bad, but that's just my take. Alright. Someone says Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood over Frieren. This is actually interesting. Okay, let's hear them out. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is a god at pacing. Episodes end with such a feeling of something is about to happen next, and has compelled me so severely to click next episode 63 times. I watched the entire thing in 4 days. I had to push myself to the only good part of Frieren's anime to start liking it. The Mage Trials. Frieren is such a flashback spammer. Himmel is Gary Sued AF. I heavily disagree. Don't diss Himmel like that. Okay, here's the thing though, and I feel like I'm speed retracted message. More characters in anime should be wise in anime, like in Frieren and Dungeon Meshi. Facts. So here's the thing. That just feels a little bit to me like a very like apples and oranges comparison. Like, Full Metal Alchemist is supposed to be kind of like discussing like political themes, and like it's more of a typical shonen formula. There's also mystery. Frieren is like taking an action like fantasy anime, but it kind of has this very like slice of life / like Violet Evergarden-ish feel to it, because the sort of like themes of the story are things like optimistic nihilism and like age and youth and love and friendship, but exploring all those themes more deeply. I think that I just personally don't think there's enough of a similarity to compare the two, because I feel like Frieren is so vastly different. Like, Frieren is something that's much more, like, it's paced the way it is, because the highlight of the story isn't inherently supposed to be, like, the cool action, even though it has cool, like, action moments. The story's supposed to be... This is a hot take. The story is supposed to reflect more... It's supposed to kind of have this, like, pacing where it feels a little bit, like, calm and simple, because it's kind of also reflecting, oh my gosh, I can't speak, the sort of, like, demeanor that Frieren herself has, where she kind of just goes through life exploring. I feel like Himmel is, like, the opposite of a Gary Sue. Because, like, a Gary Sue or a Mary Sue, the way I understand it, is, like, someone who's, like, super, like, overpowered. And just kind of, like, you know, has nothing to, like, achieve that point. I mean, we only get Himmel in a couple of flashbacks, so we don't really know, like, how strong he is. But I also feel like from what we do get about Himmel, the sort of point of Himmel's character is that in his lifetime he essentially was like the main character of that world, sort of, because him and his party saved everyone. But Himmel is someone who is selfless and heroic and wasn't really born with any kind of like natural strength, or at the very least doesn't really seem like as strong as Frieren. And where he left an impact on most people wasn't just because he ended up like defeating the demons in his lifetime, but because he was a kind and helpful person. But yeah. People who feed the trolls are just as bad as the trolls themselves. You become a troll once you feed the trolls. I think that's an interesting take for the one I just read, not the trolls one, this one. But I mean, that one was an interesting take too, but this one, I disagree with it. Interesting perspective though. Alright, AOT ending ruined it for me, IDK. So, Juan, if you're in the chat, you haven't finished AOT. Or you haven't read the manga, so cover your ears, or don't watch this part. I think the Attack on Titan ending was... I guess, like... I thought it was pretty good. I do think that it's kind of... The point of Attack on Titan, from what I could tell, was talking about human nature. And if humans are naturally drawn to doing bad things, or if history tends to repeat itself, in which case the ending kind of reflected, like, history repeats itself. So I guess it fulfilled on that. I think where it fell short just a little bit for me was maybe that I feel like there are some moments in Attack on Titan where it's just like truly like optimistic or beautiful moments. And I guess sometimes to an extent, I think the author was trying to make the point that human history repeats itself inevitably. But I also feel like the author could have explored more, because it definitely seemed like something he was trying to emphasize was, so like, what's the point to life? And I think there were some things he was like trying to touch on where he's like, the people around you and the people you love and the people you care about. Because ultimately, Eren did what he did because of the people he cared about and because of like his faith in the people he cared about. And so I think that's like really interesting, but I just think it's, maybe it could have been a little better executed. But like honestly, like that was that dude's like first story. And for a first story that is as widely successful as Attack on Titan is, I think that's just like job well done, you know? Alright. Hot take. The people who yell the loudest about media literacy actually have the least and are just arguing to justify their headcanons as fact. Oh man. I feel so bad whenever I never want to get super heated in my debates about things, but okay. That is an interesting take. First off, you said something that I just have a personal qualm with. Okay. People use the term media literacy. I don't like that term because I feel like literacy implies like something you read, like a book. Like, you can't read like media, but maybe that's just me. I think the proper term would be something like script analysis or like story analysis, because you can like analyze like a movie or a script or a story or whatever, but like you can't really, like, literacy implies like being well read, and you don't necessarily need to be like well read for media, but that's just me being nitpicky. But yeah, here's my bigger issue, maybe a little bit, with media literacy. I think sometimes people's perceptions of when they say, like, people who don't understand this story don't have media literacy, or people who don't like this one don't have, like, media literacy. I'm gonna say script analysis, I'm sorry, it's driving me crazy. I think, though, that whenever they say that, sometimes I'm like, well, I don't necessarily think, like, the story you like, just because someone else didn't like it, means they're, like, they just have no perception of what makes a good story, or, like, anything cool like that, essentially. 'Cause, like, I like Fate. I really like Fate Zero. Now, I can completely understand why some people don't like Fate Zero because of the pacing. I like the pacing. I think the exposition in Fate Zero is really well written. A lot of people tend to not really like exposition, though, as much, in, like, just, like, long scenes of exposition. I understand that. It takes a lot of focus when you're watching a lot of scenes that are, like, purely exposition. I'm not really gonna, like, blame anyone or say, like, well, you just don't get it if they don't like Fate. Like, the beautiful thing about media is that a lot of us tend to enjoy the media that speaks to us the most, and I don't think the media that speaks to me the most is always going to speak to everyone the most. And so that's kind of my issue with it. Like, I noticed a lot too, like, some people bring this up, especially with stories, where I'm like, okay, some of the content in this is, like, really rough, and I feel like not everyone is going to enjoy that. Like, I think that that's fair, and I think it's, yeah. That's my take, on that. Let's see. Okay, someone says, people only hate on Dragon Ball because of popular thing bad bias. It's legitimately a good show, and not just a gateway anime. I actually think that might be true a little bit. Because, okay, well, again, like I said before, not everyone has to like everything that, like, a person likes, but I thought Dragon Ball was, like, pretty good. Like, I had never watched it. I watched Kai with my boyfriend, and I was like, I can see why this is as popular as it is. Everyone tell me your hot takes in the comments while I try to rest my voice. Gurgling stream. Everyone tell me their takes. Do I have any hot takes? I mean, my hot take is probably that I like Sword Art Online. That's not much of a hot take, though. That's kind of just an opinion. 2 people left. I need to stop bringing up Sword Art Online. What's my hot take? Okay. Here's a hot take. I think sometimes gurgling ASMR win, right? I think sometimes in stories we're used to an American formula of seeing things in stories, where I think sometimes because people are used to that formula, they tend to misunderstand, like, a certain dynamic or a certain thing in an anime. And vice versa, sometimes we're so used to seeing things in anime that people don't actually recognize when like something is like very clearly happening, because that would happen in American stories but doesn't happen as often in like anime. Like I remember in Attack on Titan, everyone was like, Eren and Mikasa don't like each other. I was watching the first season and I was like, really? I feel like they definitely do. But because the like, you know, the childhood friends romance is like very popular in American media. Doesn't seem as romance in general doesn't seem as popular unless it's like a whole genre in Japan. But yeah. Shaw the Prey says, ooh, let's see, will I read this? I'm debating how controversial I can get. But I'll definitely read the comment in my head really quick to see. Yeah, I think that's getting more into the territory a little bit of American media. I think maybe sometimes the issue with American media a little bit is they don't always have their heart in what they're trying to write. And sometimes write things for more of like the approval of like, or the appeal to like the general audience, but because it's so audience written, some of it doesn't feel quite as like genuine or personal. Like I feel like, yeah, like okay, for example, like Arcane is like kind of it's so good. Arcane feels like a passion project to me, done by the studio that made League of Legends, because obviously there's just been so much effort put into it. All the characters feel fleshed out, and yeah, I normally don't talk about like topics like this, but they have a lot of characters in there. Well, they have a lot of characters of like different ethnicities. They also have a lot of characters of different sexualities. I feel like all of those characters are super interesting and likable, because it feels like when they created those characters, they put a lot of time and effort into thinking about like who are those characters as people, like what do we want to communicate with their story. And because of that, I think people who identify with those groups actually find those characters to be more interesting and compelling because they feel more fleshed out, and not just like a studio was like, give us your money, because sometimes that happens. But yeah, so yeah. More hot takes? Everyone can just like totally, like any opinion you have, just like be nice to each other. That's always like my one. I feel like such a kindergarten teacher when I say something like that. Like I'm like, don't bully each other, children. Like, but I like to have polite discussion. My gain is so high. Let's see, what's like, I guess another. I think about my. Let's see. Okay. This is a hot take. I'm sorry. I'm gonna make so many people mad. Okay. I like One Punch Man. I really do. Unfortunately, I feel like the parts of One Punch Man I like are a lot of the parts that Saitama's not in. With the exception of, like, the fight at the end of season 1. Because, okay, and that's me kind of just misunderstanding the point of One Punch. Because the point of One Punch Man is to be like, he's so overpowered, he's depressed. I think that's interesting. But I feel like I enjoy the fights with characters who are not as powerful as Saitama, because you don't know if they're gonna, like, win or not. And I think that's something I like to see more. Let's see. Hot take. People die when they are killed. Also, I hated Shiro while reading Fate for some reason. Sometimes that happens where I'll read something and I don't like a character, and I watch a thing and I like that character. I think Shiro in Unlimited Blade Works. Sorry, I haven't seen you. I think in Unlimited Blade Works, Shiro's kind of supposed to resemble a little bit like someone who has ideals but is very, like, naive about it. Because he believes, like, so heavily. He's like, I want to be a hero. I want to help people. Like, I'm gonna be like Kuritsugu. And, you know, the first mistake there is him not really understanding the fact that, like, Kuritsugu was far from heroic at times. But then I think also it's kind of shown that a lot of his, like, desire to be a hero is solely because of Kuritsugu, and that's something he kind of has to wrestle with in the story. And that's it. Sweating so much. I am so sorry. I'm just gonna open my door. I could just feel, like, droplets. Just, like, sweat dripping off me. I'm sorry, everyone. Let's see. Any more hot takes, eh? Feel free. Here's a hot take about characters. One Studios kind of has same syndrome. Like, they draw a lot of characters with the same. I mean, you know, they can do them. I just think. Teacher, he called my waifu trash. Shawl the Pretty. Okay. Well, now I gotta see if I have a hot take about, like, any waifus. Irie from Fate, he's best waifu. He's kind, he's loyal, he's loving, he's sweet. She, like, I aspire to be like Iris Field from Fate. Let's see. Any waifus that I think are not as great. Okay, this one's kind of obvious, but Esdeath from Akame ga Kill, because Esdeath's not, like, a great person. Like, everyone who watched, like, Akame ga Kill, I understand it was mostly, like, but, like, everyone who watched Akame ga Kill was like, Tatsumi fumbled the bag. Like, he should have gone with Esdeath. I'm like, Yeah, except for the fact that, like, his entire sense of morality completely deviates from Esdeath's sense of morality. Like, I mean, that's the point, but I think that Esdeath is just, like, she's, I don't know. She enjoys killing people. She feels like she can't really live without conflict. Seems a little bit like a red flag to me. Hot take. What was that? Was I too far from the mic? I'll just summarize what I said. My summarize. Oh wait, is it maybe the sweat just collecting around my microphone? No, I don't think that's it. I just don't think Esdeath is like prime like waifu material. She's kind of just like she's not a great person. Here's some marital advice to everyone. Probably shouldn't marry anyone who's gonna like try and kill all your friends and just kind of enjoys killing people. That's just a little life hack for you. I guess another hot take is I actually like Akame ga Kill. Now I understand the manga, like apparently pretty different ending from the anime, but still I really liked it. I thought it was good. Maybe the one thing I don't like about it is like the world building, because I feel like the world building, it's just like, initially I was like, oh, this is like medieval-ish, right? And it's like, oh no, it's 1800s-ish? Because they have like, oh you're right, the music is too loud. It's like 1800s-ish, because they have like carriages, and it's like, oh no, there's like mech suits and headphones. And then, like, some of their outfits are, like, so different from one another, and Najinda has, like, a robot arm, and I'm like, what is the world building in this anime? Tell me! Like, it was just a lot. You gotta make your world building make sense. You can't just have like one character in t-shirts and the other character in 1800s clothes, and then the other characters wearing like cyberpunk outfits. Like, I guess the only exception to that is Bungo Stray Dogs, because every character is supposed to kind of look like the time period of like the authors that they're representing. Yeah. If that makes sense. So thirsty. I can't keep talking forever. Let's see. Hot take. I got into Akame ga Kill for Esdeath, but barely got through what with all the female character deaths. They didn't only kill the women, actually. They killed all the guys too, but that's fair. Let's see. SSS says, just slapping on an age tag to someone who doesn't feel like he or she has lived that long doesn't feel right. Also, retro magic cyberpunk. Yes, that should be a genre. Let's see, so... Okay, yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I watched 86. There was, like, a character in it that was, like, this little girl, but she wasn't, like, actually little. And I was like, but she acts like a little girl still. Like, I think I don't know. Like, if you want to make a character feel more aged, you gotta do it right. You gotta, like, make them mature and sincere, I think. I think, again, like, Cardinal from Sword Art Online is like a pretty good example of that. I think, who are some other characters that are like that? Well, you can have like younger characters who are kind of like wise in their own way too. You just gotta, like, do that correctly. Yeah. Interesting. Good take. Just pretend singing. So, water for. Oh, look at this. Because I couldn't play any console games before on my PC, Juan got me an Xbox controller. That's right. I can start playing Monster Hunters again. Let's see. Oh, the Prinny says, one of the most frustrating points in Akame ga Kill was... So I was skiing this no-name female character alive when suddenly just died. Okay, that's... I think... I haven't read the manga. Maybe it was a lot darker in the manga too. I feel like sometimes, weirdly enough, Akame ga Kill was also like... It's a little too dark. That could just be my opinion. I don't think everything always has to be super dark. Like... This is why I like Unlimited Blade Works. Because I think that's one of the first shows to make me cry about something other than a character. And that's good writing. If you can care about something than just like a character dying, I think that's a whole other level of being able to touch like hearts as a writer. But yeah. It's pretty crazy. Alright, chat, we only got like 9 minutes left. Because I'm tired and I need sleep. Because I'm sick. So take. Not a sponsor. What are some more hot takes you guys have? Bring them on. Bring on all the hot takes. I am still feeling hot in my room right now. Sometimes this happens when I eat like spicy noodles too. Like I'll just be like talking to my boyfriend and he'll be like, oh, are you eating spicy noodles? I'm like, yeah. Let's see. Ilias Field dying in Unlimited Blade Works was too abrupt. That's fair. I think that, honestly, the reason I like Heaven's Field as a series is because I feel like if they added too much stuff in Unlimited Blade Works, it kind of would have started to feel like a little bit messy. Sometimes they were already like pushing it a little bit even with just like Gilgamesh and I think that in Heaven's Feel, they kind of did a lot of the stuff that they probably wanted to see but just couldn't put in Unlimited Blade Works without it feeling messy. So like they had more of Kirei, they had more of Ilia. Ilia was more of a present character. And I really liked it. Juan Sanchez says, X-Men 97 was mid. My love, we haven't even finished that show yet. I didn't like the most recent episode we watched because it felt a little filler-ish, but... That opinion. Let's see. Cold take. To get some rest if you're sick, you nerd, says Aries King. I know. Just have to stream. I have to get to be loyal to my followers. Hot take. A series where anybody can die can lead to frustration, as the plot can feel meaningless and with plot threads left undone. I think there needs to be a point to character deaths. Like, you can't just kill off characters to get people something. You gotta make them care. Like, you gotta have a reason for that character death. Like, you know, Demon Slayer, I think Rengoku's death continues to serve the story consistently, and all of the Hashira's, like, motivations and viewpoints and, like, life I think that sometimes there are stories where I'm like, they either kill a character to be like a little too like dark and gritty, or they kill a character sometimes because like they just want people to feel sad. And again, I think there's more clever ways to make people like feel emotional in stories. It's a harder way for sure. You can slowly hear me getting quieter. Hot take. There's too many isekai anime nowadays. Wasn't there always? Yeah. There's a lot. This isn't really an isekai, but like Danmachi. I really like Danmachi. It's a fantasy anime, but I need to watch the most recent season. I also need... Well, the Prinny says, I really like the character. It was my favorite. If my favorites would stop dying. How many people die in Hunter? I only watched like the first couple of episodes where like they were hunting like wild war spiders or whatever. Or am I mixing that up? All I remember is they're making food at one point in the show. Probably fit. I've been reading Berserk with my boyfriend. I really like it so far. Reading it. Unfortunately, we haven't read it in a while because we like to voice act. Unfortunately, my voice is good. It's not. Maybe it will be someday. Thank you all, by the way, who watched like the gaming stream last night. Deus Ex is like literally one of my favorite one. Says Noelle, I don't think you realize how dark Hunter x Hunter is. Yeah, I don't. Let's see. Aries King says that's the same reason I stopped watching Jujutsu Kaisen. Very upset about it still. I did watch the second season. Characters did they kill? They only killed off like what? Like actually they did kill off a lot of characters. And the one character I kind of did want to die, they didn't kill off. I kind of wanted Mahito, but I understand why they've kept him around. Nanami, I think, I also kind of wish they kept around with Nobara. But we'll see. We'll see if it, like, serves, like, the story purpose, I guess. Really depends. Any Jujutsu Kaisen hot takes? I got a hot. I think initially I didn't like the first season as much. I like the second season. The first season is good, but I just didn't like it as much because I felt like every character. JJK playing You're My Special after Shibuya Massacre. Massacre is pure genius. I've never laughed that hard. I think it's funny whenever, like, the anime endings just kind of, like, pop in at any moment. It'd be, or, like, anime openings. I think it'd be funny, too, if, like, because that doesn't always happen, like, every show. But, like, could you imagine if that, like, happened in, like, Solo Leveling? Like, Jinu's, like, gonna fight the, like, has, like, the, like, Igris, the Blood Red fight. And then all of a sudden it's just like, you're giving yourself the best. But yeah. One says, stay on mic. I'm sorry, I'm trying my best. I just like to move a lot. But I prefer manga over anime. I can read faster, but I have to dedicate time to watch anime. That's true. Read more manga, children. Read more books. That's like... Someone says Togashi. That's the author of Hunter. Introduces characters in Hunter x Hunter basically just to have more characters to kill. Oh wow. That's sad. Alright, that's it for me today. Thank you everyone for watching this. If you have trouble staying near the mic, maybe increase the gain on. I should do that next time. Thank you. Alright. Have a good night, everyone.